He didn't just pull that thing out of nowhere. Where
somebody's telling him.
Why aren't you in the front row? Like that is inferring that the kid is not working as hard as he should be. Am I wrong?
Well, that's what it sounds like. And if he's talking to someone in the building, I don't think he would.
How the hell does he know?
I know. So he's got connections with Coach. You know, what he's saying is more damning than anything I've said, right? Because he apparently has inside knowledge of something that's going on. And I only know what I see. And they still don't judge him better or even at the same level as Dylan.
Don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from? Let's begin. I'm not even mad at the soundbite anymore. I'm mad at the machine that made it matter. One line from Rex Ryan, tossed out with that old school swagger, and suddenly it's gospel for people who never watched a single rep, never sat in a single meeting, never saw one page of the install. That's the part that gets me. In 2025, a reckless sentence can outrun the truth by a mile, and by the time the truth laces up, the headlines have already called the kid lazy. Lazy? You don't get to question a young quarterback's work ethic with nothing in your hands but volume and reputation. You don't get to do that, not on national TV, not when a career can turn on how you frame a story. Look at how fast it spun. Clip goes up, quote gets clipped again, then it's chopped into a tweet, spliced into a short, stitched into a reaction. And now the whole timeline is debating front row, like it's a play concept. Nobody asked the only question that matters. Where's the proof? Not vibes, not someone told me, not I've been around football a long time. Proof. Because when you say a quarterback won't study, you're not critiquing a read, you're attacking his character. You're trying to downgrade the thing he's building when the cameras aren't around. And with Shedeur Sanders, it's never just analysis. It's a pile-on wearing a suit and calling itself concern. Here's what I see. A generational clash dressed up as expertise. The old guard is used to quarterbacks who move in silence and ask permission before they breathe. The new wave? They build a brand, speak plainly, and work like crazy behind the curtain. That makes people uncomfortable. And when some folks get uncomfortable, they reach for the laziest label on the shelf. Doesn't study. Too Hollywood. Thinks he's above it. Meanwhile, the kid shows up, keeps his head down, and lets the tape talk when he gets his moments. He doesn't clap back. He doesn't need a podium. He needs a fair frame. That's it. And let's be honest about the double standard hanging over this. Confident black quarterbacks have to thread a needle that others don't. If they smile, it's swagger. If they're quiet, it's attitude. If they're vocal, it's ego. The target moves, the rule book shifts, and somehow the conclusion is always the same. Doubt him. With Shedeur, the attention multiplies because of the last name and the spotlight. So every rumor feels bigger than it is, and every slight hits harder than it should. But the game still comes down to simple things. Timing, trust, preparation, and those aren't visible to a hot take. So yeah, I'm frustrated. Not a debate, that's sports. I'm frustrated at how easily a narrative becomes a verdict, at how a mic and a platform can pretend to be a scouting report, at how we let a man with zero receipts define a rookie's reputation before the snap even hits his hands. That's not evaluation, that's theater. And I'm done treating theater like film study. If you want to talk ball, let's talk ball. Team context, install pace, rep distribution, protection rules, where the footwork meets the timing and why some coaches slow roll a rookie by design. That's real. The rest is noise. And the longer we let noise run the discourse, the more we shortchange players who are actually doing the work when the cameras are off. Because this isn't just about Rex. It's about respect, about the standard we set when a story breaks and a kid's name is in the crosshairs. Hold the take to the same bar you'd hold the quarterback. Assignment, alignment, execution. If you can't deliver that, don't dress it up as insight. And if you still want to know how a rumor becomes a reality in a single news cycle, stick with me, because the way this narrative was built wasn't an accident. And chapter 2 is where we pull the mask off. It starts small, always does. One hot take on live TV, one throwaway line about work ethic, and before the show's even off air, it's a headline. Then that headline becomes a tweet. That tweet turns into a thread. Then the thread becomes league chatter, and suddenly it's not a rumor anymore. It's a reputation. That's how fast this game moves now. One careless soundbite, and a young quarterback's image gets rewritten before he even takes another snap. That's not journalism. That's a wildfire. And look, this isn't new. We've seen this play out over and over. Remember when Lamar Jackson came into the league? They said he couldn't throw. They said he should switch positions. Then he won MVP. Cam Newton? They said he smiled too much, acted too confident, called him a diva before he even got his rookie jersey dirty. Same story, new generation. You'd think we'd learn by now, but we don't. Every few years, the cycle resets. A young, confident black quarterback walks in, speaks his truth, and the media machine starts testing him. Not on tape, not on timing, but on tone. The double standard is so baked in, some people don't even hear it anymore. And it always starts the same way, with a phrase that sounds harmless. Sources say, "I'm hearing. Something's off with this kid." They drop it like they're whispering wisdom, when really they're planting seeds. Because once that idea is out there, that maybe Shedeur Sanders isn't studying enough or doesn't want it like other guys, it spreads like smoke. Every talk show runs with it. Every podcast hints at it. And fans start repeating it without even realizing it. Before long, it's not a rumor, Rex Ryan said, it's common knowledge. And that's how a false narrative gets legs. No film, no facts, just echoes. And I keep asking myself, when did confidence become arrogance? When did silence mean guilt? Since when do we assume that if a rookie isn't on camera explaining himself, he must be hiding something? Because here's what's real. Every quarterback learns differently. Some stand in front, some sit back, lock in, take notes their own way. None of that shows up on camera. But the second it's Shedeur, suddenly it's a statement. Suddenly body language is a red flag. Man, it's wild how the smallest gesture becomes a storyline when the spotlight's this bright. But that's the danger of the echo chamber. Once a take gets oxygen, it doesn't matter if it's true, it just needs repetition. By the third day, people forget where it came from. By the fourth, they stop questioning if it ever made sense. That's the trap Shedeur's in right now. He's not fighting another quarterback. He's fighting a conversation that keeps regenerating itself every time someone needs views. And here's the crazy part. We keep pretending this is organic, like it's just fans talking or analysts keeping it real. It's not. It's a system that rewards controversy over clarity. That's why Rex's words went viral in the first place. Not because people agreed, but because outrage pays. Outrage trends. And if you say something wild about a Sanders, the algorithm will carry it for you. So yeah, this isn't an accident. It's a pattern. And it's dangerous because it teaches young players that no matter how hard they work, no matter how much they prepare, one false headline can define them. That's not football. That's politics. And the longer we let it slide, the more power we give to the voices that never cared about the truth in the first place. Because this isn't just one story, it's a cycle. And the question is, how many more times do we let it happen before we finally call it what it is? And speaking of calling it out, in Chapter 3, we're going to talk about why this spotlight feels so heavy for some players and how it turns from pressure into a weapon. You ever notice how the spotlight hits different depending on who's standing under it? Some rookies get to breathe, to learn, to make mistakes quietly behind the scenes. But others, every step, every gesture, every facial expression becomes a debate. That's what we're watching unfold right now with Shedeur Sanders. The man can't even sit in a team meeting without someone somewhere turning it into a headline. And the wild part? He's not the first, not even close. We've seen this movie before, only the names change. Think about it. When Mac Jones came into the league, every clip out of New England was about his leadership, his poise, his football IQ. They called him mature beyond his years. But when Justin Fields showed confidence, they called it ego. When Trey Lance smiled during a rough stretch, it was distraction energy. And when Jalen Hurts walked into Philly calm and composed, people questioned whether he had the fire. The same traits that get praised in one quarterback get twisted into red flags for another. And now Shedeur is walking right into that same storm. Calm, confident, unbothered. And somehow that's a problem. Why is it that swagger looks different to people when it comes from a certain kind of player? Why do they call it arrogance when it's really composure? Why does quiet turn into aloof? Why does confidence turn into Hollywood? It's not just unfair, it's exhausting. Every young black quarterback who walks into this league has to play 2 games at once, one on the field and one in the media. One measured in completions and reads, and another measured in tone, posture, and perception. You make a throw, they break down your mechanics. You crack a smile, they break down your personality. It's constant surveillance disguised as analysis. And here's the irony. The silence says more than the noise ever could. No teammate has backed Rex's claims. No coach has even hinted that Shedeur's work ethic is in question. The Browns' locker room? Quiet. Stefanski? Quiet. If there was truth to that narrative, someone would have whispered it by now. But nobody has, because it's not real. It's a projection, not a report, and fans are starting to see through it. Go look at the reactions. ESPN dropped the clip, and the comment section flipped. Fans aren't buying the script anymore. They're calling out the bias. They're tired of watching networks tear down young players for clicks. And that's the shift right there. The people are waking up. Because every time the media throws shade without substance, they lose a little more credibility. And every time Shedeur keeps his head down and goes back to work, his respect grows louder. You can feel the tide turning. ESPN's credibility, shaken. Shedeur's integrity, rising. And that's the part they never seem to calculate. That when you try to use the spotlight as a weapon, sometimes it ends up illuminating the truth instead. Because what's happening here isn't just about coverage. It's about culture. It's about who gets grace and who gets grilled, who's allowed to grow, and who has to prove they belong before they even take a snap. And if that's the game the media is playing, then they better realize fans aren't playing along anymore. But here's where it gets powerful. Pressure doesn't just expose, it refines. In the next chapter, we're diving into how Shedeur is turning all this noise into fuel, and why his response, or lack of one, might be the smartest move he's ever made. Pressure either breaks you or it builds you. And what we're seeing right now with Shedeur Sanders, it's not a collapse, it's construction. You can feel it. Every rumor, every headline, every lazy take tossed his way. He absorbs it, processes it, and turns it into something solid. That's rare, because most players, when they get hit like this in the spotlight, they lash out. They post, they rant, they make a scene. But not Shedeur. He didn't post. He didn't clap back. He didn't fold. He worked. That silence isn't weakness. It's discipline. You don't grow up as Deion Sanders' son without learning how to move through noise. His whole life, Shedeur's been in the camera's frame. And when your father's one of the loudest legends in football, you learn that strength doesn't always need a microphone. Deion was flash. Shedeur is focus. He's built different. He studies. He watches. He waits. When Rex Ryan's running his mouth, Shedeur is breaking down tape. When analysts argue about his mindset, he's memorizing defenses. When social media is debating his character, he's building it quietly, brick by brick. You saw glimpses of that during camp. Every report out of Berea said the same thing. Calm, composed, no drama. Coaches said he showed up early, stayed late, asked the right questions. Even in those preseason drives, when most rookies panicked, Shedeur never flinched. Pocket collapsing, pressure coming, and he stands tall, scans, delivers. That's not luck. That's hours of repetition. That's preparation, meeting poise. You can't fake that kind of calm under fire, and that's what separates him from the noise around him. The talking heads are busy proving a point. Shedeur's busy proving himself. It's 2 different games. He's not trying to win Twitter. He's trying to win Sundays. That's what fans respect. That's what teammates notice. Because leadership isn't about speeches. It's about consistency. It's about being the same guy whether the cameras are rolling or not. And ask anyone in that building, Shedeur's that guy. You can see the lessons of his upbringing in how he moves. Prime taught him to expect pressure, to welcome it, to treat every doubt as a rep. And now when people try to shake his image, he doesn't react. He refines. Because pressure doesn't change diamonds, it reveals them. That's why this story hits different. It's not just redemption, it's revelation. You start to realize this kid isn't trying to silence critics. He's outgrowing them. The more they talk, the more locked in he becomes. And sooner or later, that patience is going to pay off. Big time. Because the thing about quiet workers, they don't need to announce their moment. They just arrive. And trust me, that moment's coming because the same spotlight that tried to burn him is about to light him up. But before that happens, let's talk about what makes this next stretch feel bigger than football. Why this might be more than a comeback story. Why this could be the turning point that defines his entire career. There's always a moment, one moment, that ends up defining a player's story. You don't see it right away. You don't know it when it happens. But later, when you look back, you realize that was the turning point. And for Shedeur Sanders, this might be it. This entire media storm, this nonsense controversy stirred up by Rex Ryan, it's not a setback, it's the setup for something bigger, something poetic. Because when that clip gets replayed years from now, when people pull it back up after Shedeur's carved out his career, it's going to age like milk. Every single word of it. Think about it. Every headline, every doubt, every fake source trying to drag his name, that's not breaking him down. It's building him up. That's fuel. That's motivation. And you can already feel the shift happening. The more they talk, the more people start to listen differently. The more they tear him down, the more fans rally behind him. Because real football people, real fans, recognize something deeper. They know greatness doesn't show up smooth. It comes through friction, through resistance, through being tested. You look at every great quarterback, Mahomes, Hurts, even Brady, and there was always a stretch when people didn't believe. Always a moment when the narrative turned against them. The difference is how they handled it. They didn't let the noise define them. They used it. They let it sharpen them. And that's exactly what Shedeur's doing right now. He's turning doubt into direction. Hate into hunger. Criticism into clarity. Every false headline is just another rep in the mental gym. Because here's the truth. Greatness isn't built in silence. It's forged in doubt. It's shaped by people saying you can't, by moments when you have to sit and wait your turn, knowing you're better than they say you are. And when that door finally opens, when Shedeur gets that first real shot, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, it's going to hit different because we'll remember what came before it. We'll remember the disrespect, the cheap shots, the way they questioned his heart before they even saw his full game. And that's why this moment matters. Because one day soon, that same ESPN desk that tried to paint him as lazy is going to be breaking down his highlights. Rex Ryan's clip, it'll be a punchline, a relic, proof of how wrong the experts can be when they talk louder than they listen. And for every fan who stood by him, who saw through the noise, who believed before the box score caught up, you'll know you were part of it. You were early. So when that first start comes, and it will, remember this chapter. Remember the noise. Remember who stayed quiet and kept working. Because that's what legacy is built on. Not perfection, not popularity, but resilience. Shedeur's story isn't ending here. It's just getting started. And when the lights hit him next time, it won't be controversy that follows him. It'll be history. And for all of us watching, let's keep demanding truth. Let's keep calling out the bias. Let's keep backing the players who actually earn it. Because when Shedeur's moment finally arrives, we'll all be there. Not just to say we believed, but to say we never stopped.